millions of dollars from this job, and it wasn't because I knew the Latin word for gradually growing louder. It wasn't because I knew tons of symbols. It wasn't because I'd memorized how to play from this lesson 11 years ago. Like, that's not understanding. And the problem with learning that way is as soon as you stop for 2 months, you forget everything. And then you have those people that are like, oh, I used to play piano. What? That's like saying, I used to drive. Dude, you can either drive or you can't drive. I used to be able to cook an egg. What happened? You must not have understood what you were doing when you were doing it, because you don't lose that. And that's the problem with this memorized approach to music, which is just everywhere. There's no understanding, and the reason there's no understanding is because the understanding of it has been so overcomplicated, with so much complexity over time, that now that understanding is getting lost, and the quality of music is going down. And we don't have the Beatles coming out, we don't have the Rolling Stones, we've got my Anaconda Dump, my Anaconda Dump. And music's going in a rapid decline. So again, what is the solution? Well, 99% of music theory and music in general, the way it's taught, is not needed. And the example that I love to give about this, because I like tennis, is Nadal. Nadal to me is the greatest tennis player of all time. Now the truth is that somebody with an advanced physics degree could absolutely explain the way that the ball moves through the air, the vector of the ball, the velocity at which it travels. Somebody with advanced mathematics could look and they could do tons of trigonometry and they could work out the inertia. They could do all these incredible things with this complex theory. And that theory is true. There's nothing wrong with it. It's very true. But the fact is, Nadal doesn't need to know that stuff to be the best tennis player in the world. And equally, I don't need to know so much of what is in music theory to be the best artist in the world. These world, global, life-changing artists. I've been in the studio with some of my heroes. I've been in the studio with very, very famous people. And they talk in common sense language. They say, hey, give me something sad. And I go, they don't need me to talk in numbers and letters and hieroglyphics. You want somebody who can express something. And that's coming from understanding. I made that up on the spot. I didn't memorize it from some tutorial 6 years ago. I just know how to speak. And I'm here to teach you how to speak. I'd like to show you how to speak this language of music, which allows you to express these big, big parts of yourself, which you might not even know exist yet. You might not have met yourself until you sit down on this thing. You might not quite know the depths to which you go until you're able to give a voice to those depths. Maybe you feel it sometimes. Maybe you feel your potential sometimes in a really great moment or on the edge of a cliff. But you I just get so emotional with this. Look, you get it. So, what's the solution? The solution is we're going to make music really simple. The second part of the solution is I'm taking this off because it's super warm in here. I want to get passionate and get a little hot. How's everybody doing, by the way? If you've got any questions, you can drop your questions in the comments. I'll answer anything. If anything I say is complicated, just hit me in the comments and I'll be very, very happy to answer anything. So, alright, music is just 4 things. And when you understand these 4 things perfectly, you will have a complete understanding of music. You will know everything you need to know to play any song, to be able to write any piece of music, to be able to express your individuality in full. 4 things, that's it. So what are those 4 things? Well, these 4 things are the elements which make up all music. All music. Every piece of music you've ever heard, from Bach to Charlie Puth, contains only 4 elements, sometimes only 3. So what are they? And today I'm going to tell you what they are. So the first one of these is melody. Okay, what's melody? Melody comes from the Greek word melodia, which means to sing. Melody is the bit that we sing. It's the bit that we do in the shower. It's the bit we do in the car. It's the bit we do when nobody's looking. It's the bit we do when we're at the festival. It's the, I remember when we know melody. I don't need to go too complex with melody. I am going to tell you a little bit extra of it in a second. Melody is typically made of single notes. A note is just an individual unit of sound. This is a note. It's just a unit of sound. Here's another note. Here's another note. Here's another note. No! Here's another note. These are all notes. They're all just units of sound. And a melody is just a collection of notes in a certain order, and that's the bit that we sing. Or sometimes it's played by an instrument. I remember when we used to sing. So what's the second bit? The second part of music is chords. What is a chord? A chord is a really fancy word which basically just means a bunch of notes played at the same time. And this bunch of notes produces an emotion. See, the melody is giving you a reaction to a situation. The lyrics are telling you the details. The melody is kind of telling you reaction. So I could say something like, I remember when we used to sing. And that could be a happy statement. I remember when we used to sing. It could be angry. I remember when we used to sing. I don't know if that was angry. Kind of got a bit inspired, haven't I? Or it could be Bob Marley. I remember when we used to sing. Which has got this like sweetness. So the melody is often just painting our emotional reaction to a situation. The chords are the emotional bed that goes underneath it. It's just a bunch of notes played at the same time. Example, this is the real way it's played. I remember when we used to sing. Now, if I keep the same melody, but with different chords, look what happens. I remember when we used to sing. Different, huh? Try it. I remember when we used to sing. In a government yard in Tristan. That's chords. They're magic because they completely set the space that we're going to live in. They create the emotional environment. Music is what emotions sound like. It's what those parts of you sound like. So that's chords and that's melody. Now, how do you know what the right notes are to play? Okay, a melody is just a bunch of notes, and a chord is just a bunch of notes played at the same time. Melody, you don't play them at the same time. It's just one by one. This is a melody. Whatever. And this is a chord. Good. So how do I know what the right notes to play are? Because that'd be pretty useful, right? Well, that's this thing called a scale. A scale goes underneath these first two parts of music. A scale is, again, something which has been overly complicated, and if you take traditional lessons, you're going to be learning scales for 15 years. I came up with a way where I teach all of the scales ever made in human history in under 1 hour. Thanks. Thank me later. But essentially, for the purpose of this webinar, what is a scale? A scale is just a bunch of notes which, when played, create a certain emotion. To be more specific, a scale is a rule set. And that's the best way to think about this. It is just the rule set. It says, look, you've got lots of black notes, lots of white notes. The scale says, this is a rule. And this rule says, you can play these notes, and you cannot play these other notes. And if you follow that, by the end of it, it will sound like this emotion. So I'm going to say that again. We have lots of notes, and the scale says, this is the rule. You can play these notes, and you must not play these notes. And if you do that, the music will sound like this emotion. So, a really, really easy scale we can take. The name for this scale, and it's just a name, my name is Stephen. The name of this scale is C major. Major is the type of scale. That's sort of describing the emotion. Major scales tend to sound happy, inspiring, romantic, nostalgic, hopeful. And C is just the name of the note that it starts on. So good, we're having C major, but it's just a rule set. And this rule set says you must only play the white notes, and you must not play the black notes. Cool. So now if I make a melody, I just basically pick any random notes from out of that scale. So let's just pick some random white notes. Great. Kind of like that. Now we have some chords. Chords is just a bunch of notes taken from a scale. Now I'm just making this up, because the truth is when you know the scale, it's really easy. It's really easy. And that's kind of my point. Music can be this easy. By the way, we've only done 2 of the 4 things. The third is rhythm. Rhythm! What is rhythm? You know rhythm. No, you don't know rhythm. A lot of people say, I've got no rhythm. I've got no rhythm. Some people say I'm tone deaf. Tone deaf is just, you've not learned the scale yet. A scale set's a rule set. If you don't know the rules, then you're going to be singing the wrong notes. Some people kind of just know the rules by listening to enough pop music. They work out the notes that kind of can and can't be included. But the fact is, you can learn those rules. They're very simple. I teach all of the scales in 1 hour. And then you'll know the rules, and then you'll never sing a bad note again. You'll never play a wrong note again, because you'll know what are the right notes and the wrong notes in order to create that emotion that you want to create. So, now, rhythm. Rhythm is super simple. Rhythm is measured movement. It comes from a word rhythmos, which meant measured movement. Okay. Oh, this is going to be so complicated. No, it's not. It's not. For the purpose of this, rhythm is simply this. Let me grab a pen from somewhere. Here is a pen. Jolly good. Right. Now, let's... This is a bit improvised on the spot, but that is what a live webinar is about. You see this paper? Good. This is a line, and it represents time. You see that line? Kind of, not really. There you go, you can sort of see the line. Now, all of the notes of a song are going to happen at some point along this line. All rhythm is doing is saying exactly when they fall. We're going to have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 2 here. Like 1, there, there. Something like that. Now, that's kind of a simplified version of it, but that's basically what it is. The notes of the song are either chords or they're melody. Rhythm says, when do we play them? So melody says, these are the notes. Chords says, these are the notes. Great, when do I press them? When do I actually press them? And how long do I hold them? And when do I let them go? That's rhythm. So if I hold the notes for a long time, we could say that's a slow rhythm. If I play it faster, hey, I don't know where I'm going with that, sorry. Slight saturation. That's rhythm. It's vastly overcomplicated, but it's when we move. Even in dancing, even when we're dancing, it's right foot on the 1, left foot on the 2. It's telling us when do we do the movement, when do we press the note, when do we move our hand, when do we press the note. That's rhythm. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Or on the piano, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like dancing. Now the difference between a good dancer and a good musician is how much they become the rhythm. It's the guy who's dancing like this and the guy who's dancing like this. And he's having a conversation and he's talking to the girl at the same time. He just knows what he's doing because he understands. I see so many musicians and they don't understand rhythm, and so they sound wooden. They look like a 14-year-old with their first boyfriend/girlfriend. It's so awkward. Because they're thinking. Because this stuff's been overcomplicated. Because the way the rhythm's taught is absolutely disgusting. It took me 22 years to learn rhythm. I I teach all of rhythm to the level of a professional drummer in under 4 hours. We'll get into that. So then there's the fourth thing. We've got melody, the bit we sing. We've got chords, the emotion of the whole thing. We've got rhythm, how we're going to move, and how we're going to measure that movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's the fourth ingredient, the most important ingredient, and that is emotion. Emotion. Emotion comes from two words, but to put into motere, movement. It's to create movement in somebody else. And if we remember what an artist is here to do, it is entirely that. I need to express my individuality in a way which creates an emotional impact. That's the difference between somebody who plays for themselves and somebody who plays for others. But even if you're playing for yourself, you still need to be able to create an emotional impact in yourself. It's me sitting down and really feeling it. Now, the first three things create a feeling. The chords create a certain emotion. The melody creates a certain emotion. I remember we used to sing your interest of a song. I don't know the words to this song, but I felt something. And the rhythm's just how I'm going to move on that. Now the emotion's the bit that I put in. And the truth is emotion kind of comes naturally from you. It's the bit we start with. In fact, when you write music, it's the first thing you start with. You think, what is the emotional impact I'd like to create with this song? And then if you understand music, you pick the chords which express that emotion. You pick a scale, the rule set, which results in that emotion. And then you pick a melody from that scale, and then inevitably everything is contributing to that emotion. And all you're doing in rhythm is getting the speed of the emotion. Different emotions have different speeds. When you're angry, what does that beat like? Sometimes if you're just like quietly pissed, you'd be this. I am Iron Man. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-da-da-da-da. Right? If we're happy, we've got this. Is it too late now? Say sorry. Anyway, I'm kind of veering off topic here. The point is that all of this stuff is music, and there's nothing more than this. Every song you've ever heard, every song you've ever loved, every song you've ever wanted to play, everything is contained in those four things. But you will never access the fourth thing, the most important thing, if you're stuck on the first three. If chords and rhythm and melody and scales are so complicated to you, you will never be able to feel music. And because of that, you will never be able to produce feeling in other people. You will never be able to just let go. You'll never be able to just speak with your instrument. You'll never be able to just sit on the piano and, dude, tell me how you feel. I feel... It's the difference between... You know? And the reality is that the dude who can feel it is going to love it. And that's what we see in all the greatest artists. They're on stage and they love music. It's probably, you've had that experience in your life. If you're sitting here and if you're still with me, and thank you if you're still with me, it's because you've had that connection to music. But you've had that connection to music in the passenger seat, not in the driving seat. And I'm here to put you in the driving seat because I promise you, whatever joy that you've ever received from music is not even 1% of what it feels like when it's coming from you. When you're in the center of that universe and it's just bellowing out of you. And if you really want to get high, put some other people in the room and feel how it feels for a whole room to change. The greatest thing in my life. I have two great pleasures in my life. I have two big purposes. One, I want to fill stadiums. I want to go around, I want to play songs that people love. Those songs that define your life. I want to play those and I want to hear thousands of people singing.
No. Right?
The other thing I want to do,
if we're happy we've got this. Is it too late now? Say sorry. Anyway, I'm kind of veering off topic here. The point is that all of this stuff is music, and there's nothing more than this. Every song you've ever heard, every song you've ever loved, every song you've ever wanted to play, everything is contained in those four things. But you will never access the fourth thing, the most important thing, if you're stuck on the first three. If chords and rhythm and melody and scales are so complicated to you, you will never be able to feel music. And because of that, you will never be able to produce feeling in other people. You will never be able to just let go. You'll never be able to just speak with your instrument. You'll never be able to just sit on the piano and, dude, tell me how you feel. I feel... It's the difference between, you know? And the reality is that the dude who can feel it is going to love it. And that's what we see in all the greatest artists. They're on stage and they love music. It's probably, you've had that experience in your life. If you're sitting here and if you're still with me, thank you if you're still with me. It's because you've had that connection to music. But you've had that connection to music in the passenger seat, not in the driving seat. And I'm here to put you in the driving seat because I promise you, whatever joy that you have ever received from music is not even 1% of what it feels like when it's coming from you, when you're in the center of that universe and it's just bellowing out of you. And if you really want to get high, put some other people in the room and feel how it feels for a whole room to change. The greatest thing in my life, I have two great pleasures in my life. I have two big purposes. One, I want to fill stadiums. I want to go around, I want to play songs that people love. Those songs that define your life. I want to play those and I want to hear thousands of people singing them back to me. And the other thing I want to do is I want to make 1 million artists. How many good artists do you think there are on the planet today? 100? 200? Thousands maybe? I'm talking like real artists. People who are really expressing their individuality in a way that creates a real emotional impact in you, that moves you when you listen to it. Not just some guy trying to sound like Justin Bieber because the record label said we need more Justin Biebers. Not that. I'm talking a true artist that rocks you in your core. How many is there? Well, I want to make 1 million. I want to make 1 million people that can do that and that have that for themselves. And my hope is that that has this echoing effect, because an art is incredibly important to a culture. My music is the soundtrack to what I want tomorrow to be like. I write love songs about a love I hope to have. This... that sweetness is... And the fact is that when anybody listens to this, it stirs up the same thing in you that it does in me. That's why music's important. That's why I want to make tons of artists. That's why I hope you also want to learn. So music's 4 things. All I did there: chords, rhythm when I'm playing it. I didn't even give you a melody, and some music doesn't have a melody. And I gave you a lot of emotion because I was able to understand what I'm doing. So how do we get to this place where we can learn really quick? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I spent 7 years making something. I had to kind of reverse engineer how we relate to music. Nobody describes music in 4 things. Most piano teachers are worried that if they did that, they wouldn't have a student next week. And they're in the business of keeping you in lessons every single week for years and years and years. It takes the average person 15 years to get to grade 8 level, which is a mediocre level of being able to play a good deal of songs. I don't want that. I want to give somebody a course which allows them to speak the language of music. Not just a few sentences, not just a few songs. I'm talking you play anything. You can write your own songs, you can express yourself, you can find yourself, and you can do that in a way that creates an emotional impact in you and others. I'm talking real self-therapy. I'm talking going home and just finding that place. Creating that place, if I want to be more accurate. Because you're going to get in the driving seat. The obstacle to doing this was that the way that it's currently taught is vastly overcomplicated. It's as if a whole world is making a business out of keeping it complicated. It's as if these universities want to convince you that you need a university professor in order to understand this stuff. Somebody to translate the Latin for you and keep you confused for just long enough. I'm not in that business, I don't care. I want to make artists, I want to make people, I want to have a world that has what I have and can create this much beauty in their life, not just for themselves, but for other people too. It just naturally is such a wonderful thing. It's such a wonderful thing. And I see in today's world, this year's been so weird. I'm like, I want to hear people's songs. I want to hear their stories. The dude who's, driving the Uber, and he's wearing the mask, and I see he's like, there's a lot going on in there, and I want to hear it. I want to know what that sounds like. The dude on the bus, what's he sound like? The dude at Starbucks making the coffee and his perspective on the world. What's he thinking? What's in there? That's true art. I wrote a song once on a super yacht. There's all these rich people, and he asked me to make a song up, and I sat and I just gave my perspective. I wanna be rich. I wanna be rich like you. Buy some fancy shit, and everyone would think I'm cool. I just want the fame, fly through life like it's nothing, screaming out your name. They all wanna give you something, be a star. Fly around the world making love to beautiful. I'm so special, I wanna feel special. Special like you. It was my perspective in a moment. And when I play that, it's bottled an emotion that I really felt at a time. And when I play it, other people that are going through stuff where they feel like that suddenly are given a voice. That's fucking music, dude. That's fucking music. So how are we going to do this? Well, I made a course. And I'm going to tell you about that course now. How do you learn in 3 minutes a day? Because normally it takes 4 hours a day. And this course, by the way, it takes around 6 months. The quickest person who's done it has done it in 2 weeks. Because they didn't do 3 minutes a day. They were going. But how do you actually get there? Well, my discovery on re-going through music is that actually if you get rid of everything, there really are only those 4 things to all of music. And to fully understand those 4 things, you need to know it breaks down into about 55 individual steps. One of those steps, for example, is how do you move your hands independently? Like, how do I move fingers independently of the others? It's super simple, right? I came up with this thing called hand yoga. And it's essentially a ton of different exercises that get you to be able to move each finger independently and control your fingers independently. Kind of important if you're going to be playing the piano, right? But that never gets done. And because we skip that step, everybody sits down, they start playing, and they get this fumbly trying to open the bra, don't know what I'm doing type thing. Yeah. It's just skipped a step. And music education currently skips a whole lot of steps. So I designed a